Hello, B&B, Skyside here, and I would like to thank you first off for this monologue and your patience, as with recent events that have occurred in the world, I thought it was appropriate. Now, far be it for me to ever use this platform as an agenda-driven vehicle. However, with almost 75,000 members, it's almost assured that our members are affected by things throughout the world. With the recent fires in California, the devastating floods in Louisiana, and the earthquake in Italy, we can almost surely bet that we did have members that were affected by this. And I would like to ask that regardless of your faith or belief system, that you do keep them in your thoughts and prayers. It also reminded me of a situation that occurred a little while ago where we lost one of our forum stewards, Mike Swofford. There had been a period of time when he wasn't posting and questions were being asked. Unfortunately, we did find out in time that Mike had passed away. At that time, one of the moderators, I believe it was Beginish, and one of our members, Connie, intrigued, had mentioned something about Connect 365, and this really rang home to me. If you notice on my signature page, you will see in red lettering, Connect 365. Now, all this basically means, and all this does, is to remind people that each person you meet throughout your day, whether it be here on the forum or in your normal day-to-day world, has a family and has some importance. And even a nice word of saying hello or asking how they're doing gives us that Connect 365. So I'd like to challenge everyone who's listening to put Connect 365 in red on your signature page if you can, just to show the support that everyone we meet here on the forum, because as we know, this is a very, very special place where many of us have made friendships even without speaking to somebody or even shaking their hand. So truly, badgerandblade.com is special. But I would again challenge you to put that just to show the support of connecting with each and every person you meet on a daily basis. And once again, if you would keep your thoughts and prayers to those people that were affected in California, Louisiana, and Italy. We'll be back right after this. From the high desert southwest and an indiscreet shave den located in the deep recesses of Ouch's basement, broadcasting north from McMurdo Sound to Ice Station Zebra and east and west across all time zones to our members throughout the world, this is Badger and Blade Radio. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever in this great wide world you may be, and welcome to Badger and Blade Radio. On this week's episode, news and events and happenings around badgerandblade.com. And are you looking for that new rabbit hole to climb down? Yes, we're talking acquisition disorder, our Steward Spotlight interview with Claude L. Xerxes from the Nib, where we will discuss everything fountain pens. This and a whole lot more right after these messages.
Hi, you got a bomb in here?
Shoot no, Sergeant. Just telling folks about Post Toasties, the toasted cornflakes. Post Toasties, get it? Toasting makes cornflakes taste better, makes them crisper. Shazam!
Post cereals make breakfast a little bit better.
Welcome back to Badger and Blade Radio, everybody. And now for a quick tour around badgerandblade.com for news that you can use. We'd like to welcome all new members to badgerandblade.com and remind them to stop by the Hall of Fame to introduce themselves. It's also a great way to find out where members are coming from all over the world. Also, those of you that have been following the active duty military PIF, please note that PIF will be ending on Wednesday. So if you are active U.S. military, both here and abroad, please make sure you enter. And for those folks that would like to just stop by and thank those members for their service, please do so as well. Are you looking for a fragrance or would like to find out a little bit more about really high-end fragrances? Please check out Fragrance Fridays done by Joel each and every Friday. Stop by the barbershop. There's always lively conversation going on there. And are you looking for a shampoo, a hair gel, a pomade? Well, stop by our skin and hair care section to find out all those answers that you need. Also, do you have a favorite subject you like to talk about? Whether that be a razor, a straight razor, soaps, hair care? Well, there's a good chance you'll find a club where people have the same interest that you do. check out the Clubs and Brotherhoods section, which is a sub-forum of the Scent Shave of the Day. Also, if you haven't gone over to the journal sections lately, or if you haven't started your own journal, there's always very interesting conversation going on there. One of the newest ones is Goatee Watch 2016. One of our forum stewards, Devin Moonshire from our Straight Razor Forum, just retired from the Navy, so congratulations for that. And in doing so, he has decided to grow a goatee. Now, the Goatee Watch 2016 is in full swing, so make sure you check it out. And there's also been a group formed by one of our moderators, Rock Viper, called Snag. Support Nate's Goatee. And we already have 3 people that are involved in that. So if you'd like a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, please check out those journal sections. Also, on the BST, the Buy, Sell, Trade, and the Marketplace, please check there first before going out into the internet and buying stuff. There's always members that have things for sale, trade as well. When we get back, our exclusive Forum Spotlight and Steward Spotlight interview with Claudel Xerxes from the Nib. We'll be right back. Badger and Blade Radio is extremely excited to have the next in our Steward Spotlight interviews with Claudel Xerxes, your forum steward for the Nib. How are you today, Eric?
Doing well. How about yourself, Dave?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and we certainly do appreciate you taking time on your Sunday afternoon to do this interview for the members of badgerandblade.com. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what prompted you to get into the traditional wet shaving methods.
Traditional wet shaving just kind of came about. Well, I guess, first things first. I'm from Michigan. I don't know, I'm 31, no wife or kids right now, so I'm living the single life. I'm a laborer and a full-time student right now, and just kind of enjoy multiple different hobbies and interests. I kind of move around from thing to thing and get bored with it and move on. So, but luckily, wet shaving and pens have been a mainstay for the past couple of years for me. Fantastic. What are you studying in school? Business administration right now.
Great. It's a great field. I've been doing that for quite some time. And, sure. As we go forward, as steward for the Nib, are you relatively new to fountain pens, and how long have you been using them?
I've been using a fountain pen since about April of 2015, so about a year and a half. Truthfully, like my first pen I had when I was, I think, in 5th grade. I ended up buying one just kind of out of interest, being a young kid and enjoying writing and enjoying drawing. And for the life of me, I could not tell you what it is right now. But it was a fountain pen that I had, and I played around with it for a couple of years and enjoyed switching out the inks and enjoyed how it worked. But then the novelty wore off, and I got rid of it. But after being on the forum for a little while, I started checking out the Nib and got interested. And it was when I decided to go back to school that I decided to get a fountain pen just to kind of motivate me. And it was just something that I found that might be interesting, just something that was kind of classy, but also, too, could be something that could last me a long, long time. And so I decided to get one, and it just kind of took off from there, and I had an enjoyment ever since.
Now, as you use fountain pens, obviously myself being a left-handed writer, do you find that it's harder for a left-hander to use a fountain pen, or are there specific nibs and pens that are more user-friendly for left-handed people?
There are certain pens and nibs that they do make for left-handed people, but I've had quite a few people say that, they're left-handed, they can't use it because it'll smear, but I've had to change my technique when I started using a fountain pen to use them correctly, and certain types of nibs lend themselves to certain type of techniques and where you hold your pen. And so to me, it's one of those things where I feel a left-handed person, it's somewhat of an excuse to not try to use them, but you should definitely try it out. I've had to use what's called an underhand technique, where you hold your hand below the line, and there's no possibility of you smearing your hand unless it's you're bringing your hand up further than the line that you're writing on. So there's definitely techniques that you can use to correct it, and I don't think any left-handers should be left out of using fountain pens.
Now, are you left-handed yourself?
No, I'm right-handed, but I've had a few friends that have tried to pull that argument on me, so I've had a little bit of practice with figuring out what to say.
Well, I think with most left-handers, you either have what we call the hook writers, which are over the top, or those of us that went to parochial school and remember the nuns coming up and slapping us with the yardstick have learned to write under. And I think that for those of us that were born with terrible handwriting, I think getting into fountain pens also is that discipline of trying to make your penmanship better, because as we all know, they don't even teach that in school anymore.
For sure. And that's actually part, I don't consider myself at all to have good handwriting by any stretch of the imagination, but that's something that also intrigued me about getting a fountain pen and about using a fountain pen, was to try to improve my penmanship. And truthfully, it was I think the thread that got me going on it was about John Hancock's signature in the Declaration of Independence. And just reading, there was only a few comments, but just starting to think about how penmanship, how important it is, and how back in the day, like your signature was everything, and it would really define who you were, and obviously sign legal documents and all that. But it was just something that sparked my interest and got me thinking definitely about getting into fountain pens again.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that about John Hancock and the
Declaration.
And I think that you can also see this generationally, because I remember my father, who was born in the 30s, had handwriting that some computers cannot even match now. It was so nice, and he always had a fountain pen. And then for some reason, when we were in school, they taught penmanship, but, it was just one of those other subjects that we didn't want to pay attention to, as we were throwing spit wads across the room. And I think that now that we're older, it's a little bit tougher to get back into the swing of things. And with that, some of the members are going to be listening saying, hey, this is a wet shaving forum. What do you think it is about Badger and Blade that allows a multitude of subjects, such as the nib, to be so successful? Because as of last check, your forum had 117,000 posts with over 5,700 threads. What do you think the correlation is between Badger and Blade and other types of subjects other than wet shaving?
Well, I think it's a few things, Dave. I think partially it has to do with traditional practices. I think with wet shaving, it's obviously a traditional method of shaving. It's nothing like the new systems like the cartridge or an electric razor. And I think that's what fountain pens also come to tie in. It just has to do with that kind of classic, more of what we consider like the romanticized idea of a gentleman, just being more refined and being more classic with a lot of things that we use. And I think with fountain pens and with wet shaving, it's a very deliberate act. It's not just scribbling around, doodling, roller balls, just messing around and just trying to play with them. I think it's something that you really pay attention to what you're doing while you're doing it. And it's just, I guess to me, it transcends, it's one of those things where just people of the same tradition, of the same ideas, kind of tend to flock, birds of a feather type of thing.
Well, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think that it's rather than, as most of us when we first started shaving, it was a chore. When we had to write a letter, it was a chore, because now we can just type it into our word processor or our computer and just go from there. So I think it's almost a deliberate act, like you said, therefore we enjoy the experience a lot more. Would you agree with that?
Oh, very, very much so. Yeah, 100%.
What do you enjoy most about being the forum steward for Badger and Blade in the nib?
I mean, the interaction with the members is great, and obviously you don't have to be a steward to have a wonderful interaction. But I think it's nice to kind of be able to set an example to other members. It's the administration tools, I guess, are a plus, but in the nib, there's not a whole, it's not a big rowdy crowd, so I guess I don't have to use those tools as much as I would have to in certainly other forums. But it's just that interaction. It's kind of that camaraderie, and it's I guess being able to have somebody trust you when you do post something online, to be able to have little bit of I guess I shouldn't say authority, but to have some credibility when you're posting or when you're giving a suggestion. And I think as being a steward, it's definitely nice to have people who are not as comfortable with posting or not as comfortable with the rules or with how things are done to be able to look up to somebody and to be able to use them as an example.
Well, with that being said, do you feel that being a forum steward gives you that credibility right out of the gate, or is it something you feel that you have to earn from the members?
Oh, yeah, no. I don't think that being a steward definitely gives me the automatic credit. I know that my handwriting and my knowledge of fountain pens definitely is not even close to a lot of the members who post there frequently. So it's something that definitely has to be earned, but it's having that badge, and I guess it's something to have for people who are looking for some guidance to be able to look out for, and even not listening to what I say specifically, but if they know that I'm trusting another member, it's just kind of that mentoring type of a program that we definitely have on B&B, and all the members help everybody out. So it's I guess, just an example and just another way to help somebody direct them into the right path, I guess, or the correct answers, or to find what they're trying to seek or achieve.
Well, and I think a lot of members also, when they go on, they like to see, a contact person, a person that they may not know the answer, but they will be willing to go and get the answer or point them in the right direction. How long have you been a member of Badger and Blade?
I have been a member since the 13th of December 2014.
Okay, so we're relatively about the same time, because I think I joined in, I believe, August or September of that same year. Now, what would you say to members that primarily have gotten to badgerandblade.com due to wanting to try out the traditional wet shaving? What would you say to members to try to entice them to spend a little bit more time in the nib?
I think with the nib, the great thing about it is, and I guess fountain pens and anything in general, the nib serves kind of as a liaison for what we're trying to do. It's communication, and it's correspondence, and it's connection. And I think with fountain pens, you write, you draw, you communicate with them, you use them to write down ideas, and so it's kind of like a no-holds-bar thing in the nib. In my opinion, with communication, there's multiple different things that you can express and you can share in that forum. And one thing that I would really definitely like to see more of is more art or more poetry or any type of written word, any type of expression going on in the nib. I notice a lot of our members like to concentrate more on the pens themselves and the inks. But I know myself and a few other stewards would definitely like to see more of kind of artistic and creative endeavors happening throughout B&B. And I think the nib is definitely one of those places where members can feel free to express themselves in any type of creative way, whether it be writing or art or poetry or anything of the like.
Well, I think that's a great idea, because I know over in the Straight Razor Forum, where I spend a lot of time, you have that where people will come out and they will take a $5 gold dollar razor and turn it into just a work of art. And I think that the nib lends itself to possibly a writing contest. I don't know if that's something you thought of, but the one thing that I've noticed about the nib that has really blown me away, quite honestly, is that I didn't realize that there were special papers that can make the writing look good, different style nibs. I haven't pulled the trigger yet because I'm still trying to figure out what to get. I did have a Waterman pen that I had for years and years and years, and my lovely wife has told me that it has disappeared. I know she still has it because she is our resident pen thief, but I've been looking at, I believe I think it's a Pilot retractable, just to be able to use for work and so forth. But I find it fascinating. I'm fortunate enough to, one of my clients was the technical advisor and the president of, I guess there's a large fountain pen guild, I guess, or association in the United States, and he was also the technical advisor for Lamy Pens. So he's also shown me his collection, and those of you out there that think that the wet shaving and the straight shaving AD can dip into your wallet, wait till you get into fountain pens. And that leads us to our next question. So how many fountain pens do you currently own, and how bad is this acquisition disorder for you?
All right, actually, with myself, the acquisition has not been too much of a beautiful burden, I guess it would be, to have that many pens.
I like the way you put that.
For me, I think last I counted, it was between about 35 and 40. I was messing around a couple days ago trying to figure it out, and I have kind of pens scattered throughout the house, so I think I left off at about 36 pens, and then I think I have a few of them in like a couple of boxes or a couple of drawers somewhere, so between about 35 and 40, which is not that crazy compared to, or which is not that excessive, I guess I should say, compared to a lot of the members on the forum. To me, it was kind of a gradual AD. It wasn't anything that was, like right off the gate, just buy. It was slowly experimenting, slowly trying more things. So it's been a journey. Yeah, it's been probably the most slow and steady out of the ADs that I do have that relate to the subjects on B&B. But I definitely do have, I think, enough to make things interesting, and enough to be able to enjoy different types of pens and different types of writing. And I have, some calligraphy pens, and I have some vintage pens with flex nibs, and I have some nice modern pens. And so I think I have nothing too outlandishly expensive, but I think I have a pretty nice array of pens to definitely be able to do what I need to do for the time being.
Does the nib, or have you thought of, and it may already be there, I do not know, like a buyer's guide for first-time fountain pen users?
We do have the Nib Wiki, and we also have the B&B Members Guide to the Nib, but
that, I would say probably that's the most frequent new post that we get, is suggesting pens to try, or suggesting what pens they should get for either the members should get for themselves, or their spouse, or their significant other. So yeah, there's a lot of questions about it, and it is a very personal thing. I mean, when a lot of people start out, it seems to be there's the same maybe 5 to 7 pens that get suggested all the time, but a lot of it is a personal journey, and each person that uses a fountain pen is going to use it differently for different things, with different inks and different papers, and so it very much can be a very specified type of questions that you need, I guess, to be able to figure out what would be your best pen. And especially when you're starting out, there's so many choices. Not only pens are there lots of choices, but there's paper that will interact different, and then there's inks, which gets into a whole, not only colors, but you have different brands, you have different qualities, and so it can definitely be a very daunting task to figure out what pens you want and what it will serve its purpose for, if it'll do you justice or not. So there's a lot to definitely think about for first-time fountain pen buyers.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, as we finish up our interview today, Eric, do you have any final thoughts for the members of B&B, or just final thoughts in general?
I guess to me, I just wanted to just, I guess, express my appreciation for B&B and for all the people who put it together, and the owners and all the members. It's just, to me, a very, very special place. That's why I stayed on for this long. A member since 2008, Maniv, I remember, talked to me about B&B back in 2009, 2010, and at the time I had a beard. I'd had a beard for 8 or 9 years, almost consistently for 8 or 9 years, and I just wasn't interested. But then a few years later, in like October 2014, I shaved for the first time and actually enjoyed it, and just kind of started getting into, I guess, everything, and started looking up things. And every time I would look something up, Badger and Blade would be at the top of the search engine.
You bet.
And it just, kept on going and going. And after a while, I just kind of thought, hey, maybe this place is something to check out. And so I remember signing up, and within the first few days, I received a piff of some aftershave. And to me, it just blew me away that somebody had just randomly just kind of said, hey, would you like to try this aftershave? I have it. And I said sure. And just that type of generosity, and I guess that type of family and connection and connectedness, just the type of community that Badger and Blade is, just to me blows my mind. And it still does even now. I mean, it just seems like I just keep on seeing more and more stuff that just makes it such a exemplary type of a place to have. And especially nowadays, it just seems like online and just everywhere, you see so much chaos, so much, just there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of turmoil and just a lot of turbulence happening right now. And it's just nice to have a place like Badger and Blade where you can have a lot of civility, you have camaraderie and gentlemanly behavior. And it to me, I just find it to be a very special place.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think that one of the things that even my wife has noticed, as she peers in every once in a while as we're on the forum and so forth, is that she's amazed with, number one, the generosity, number two, the cordiality of people, and number three, how a lot of us have become such good friends and have literally never shaken each other's hands, which is a rarity in today's world. And as I've said on previous shows before, it gives me hope that there's still civility and there's still that gentlemanly behavior towards others that seems to be so lacking when you look at the media and everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Eric, I'm sure on behalf of the Badger and Blade members and everyone, we certainly thank you for taking the time to give us a little bit of an insight of the forum nib, because there's a lot more to a fountain pen and this hobby than just pens, as you've said, and I know that you've just scratched the surface. So once again, on behalf of Badger and Blade Radio and badgerandblade.com, we'd like to thank you for your time today, and hopefully we can get the B&B members to spend a lot more time in your forum.
For sure. Well, thank you, Dave. And even though I can hardly remember a word that I just said, but no, I appreciate you having me on here.
No problem. Thanks again. You have a wonderful day.
All right. Thanks. You too, Dave.
Well, that brings another episode of Badger and Blade Radio to a close, and we'd certainly like to thank all of you for listening. Also, we'd like to once again extend thank you to Claudel Xerxes, Forum Steward for the Nib, for our Steward Spotlight, and it will be very interesting to see how many people go out and buy pens and ink after that wonderful interview. Don't forget to check out our vendor section here on badgerandblade.com, as we have a wide selection of vendors for you to peruse. Also, the Sue Moore Memorial Auction will be only about a month and a half away, so if you'd like to get involved, please check out that thread as well. As always, we'd like to thank the moderators and stewards for the hard work they do each and every day, as well as the administrators and owners of badgerandblade.com for bringing us this wonderful venue to spend time at. Also, don't forget that if you have any suggestions for the Badger and Blade Radio Show, please go ahead and note that on the thread in the video library, and we will certainly do our best to get that integrated. We've got lots of great interviews coming up with vendors, stewards, moderators, and once again, even Ouch. I've been your host, Skyside, and we'll see you next time on Badger and Blade Radio.